Welcome back to my workshop. Now today I've got a project. I've got to make a buzz game, and this is for a corporate family day. I've actually got to make about 5 of these things, but what I'll do is I'll talk you through the first one and then I'll show you the rest at the end. So let me quickly show you what my idea is. Okay, so here we are again in the design studio. My basic idea is fairly simple, but it's got to be quite large. Let's draw you something. Right, as I say, I've got to make 5 of these things. Now basically each one's going to be a similar design, but maybe different sizes and shapes. But the basic idea is quite a large wooden base. I'm going to make that out of MDF with basically a wire that does a funny shape. Okay, then there's going to be a loop around here which is attached by a wire. And then basically you've got to move that around the wire. If that touches the wire, then it's going to make a big noise out of some sort of hooter. That's the basic idea. Let me show you what materials I've got. Right, so first off, I've got 3 sheets of this stuff, which is 12mm MDF. Then over here on the floor, I've got some metal pipe work, which I'm going to be using for the actual wire. And then over on the bench I've got some more stuff. Alright, so on the bench here I've got myself some little buzzers. These are little 12-volt buzzers. I don't know how loud they are. I've got to try them yet. I've got some switches. Now these are all off of a tractor. I've got some little circuits here which are relay delay circuits. I've got a little motor here which I'm going to use as a vibrating motor. This again is off of a tractor. Little lamps here. LED lamps, these again are off of a tractor. Got a little bit of wire. I've got some spanners which I'll be using, and a dead duck. No, this has got nothing to do with it. So there's all my stuff. So let's start making something. Okay, so the first challenge I've got is obviously to break down my big material. Now this is so big and I've got such a small workshop, and even though I've got a table saw, I'm not going to be able to get this on the table saw all the way through. So I'm going to have to use my track saw to actually cut this into more manageable pieces. So let's get on with that. Right, so I've got all the components for my first box cut. Now what I want to do is I don't want any joins to be visible on the top of the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to miter all of the corners. And to do that I'm going to set my table saw up using my angle finder gauge to cut 45 degrees on all the corners. Let me show you. That'll do. So then what I can do is I can use my table saw sled with an open end on it, and I can cut these to a 45 degree angle. So let me do that. Right, so we now have the top of our first box. All the edges are mitered here. That was a bit more difficult than I expected. But what I'm going to do is stick all the edges together and then lower the top onto it. Right, so I've cracked on now. I've got 3 small boxes, 1, 2, 3. Then I've got one that's twice the size of that, and then one at the bottom here that's twice the size as that one. Right, so what I want to do for the first one, the company I'm making them for has got a little mascot. Let me show you. I've drawn that on the board. Right, so this is the company mascot. He's called Basil. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut him out in MDF, and then the actual buzz wire is going to run around him like this. Okay, that's the idea. Yeah, how hard can it be? Right, because I couldn't find a decent picture of him, I've had to draw him, but I've only drawn half of him. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror him in the software and then cut it out on a CNC machine. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. Right, this is Basil. I've done a design. I've converted that into a vector so I can use it on a CNC machine. And then when I cut it out, it should look something like this. Right, well hopefully you can hear me over the CNC machine. I'm going to concentrate on the box for a second. Now each box, like this, it obviously goes up this way. So the bottoms are going to be screwed on so I can unscrew them to get to the electrics inside. Okay, and I'm literally going to drill some pilot holes and put about 6 screws in the bottom of each. Okay, so let me get on with that. Right, so the CNC has just stopped. It's been going since about 10 o'clock this morning. What I've made so far is 3 of these little fellas, okay? But what I've got to do is these are not quite thick enough. These are only 12mm thick. So what I'm going to do, using the same program I used to cut these out, I'm going to cut out some blank ones, then I can stick it to this and basically laminate it to make it thicker. In the meantime, I think about tidy this lot up. Right, so all the CNCing is finally finished for this part. Now I've got my 3 little Basils and I've got 3 backing plates. All I'm going to do is stick these together using some wood glue and then clamp them together and leave them overnight. Right, as these 3 Basils stuck now, I'm going to leave these overnight and come back to them in the morning. But now I'm going to go and have some dinner. Right, so each of these little Basils has now been drying overnight. Now obviously where I've laminated them together, there's you can see the joint in the middle. So what I'm going to do now is run it around my sander here, just to clean off those edges. Right, so each little Basil is going to have a stand like this one, just to give him a bit more security when he stands up. This will obviously be screwed to the box from the inside. Now to do that, all I've done is I've cut out a piece of MDF, the same shape for each of these. This will be profiled on the edge. A few screws in strategic places because you've got to be very careful because MDF tends to split. So you've got to make sure you countersink before you screw the screw in. Then these would just be screwed to the base and then these will be screwed to the box. Simple as that. Right, so this is what Basil's going to look like on the first one. What I want to do now is screw this base to the box. Now, obviously I don't want any screws seen from the top. So what I've done is I've put it in the middle. I'm going to draw around it and I'm going to drill some holes through and then put some screws through from inside the box. Right, we're back over in the design studio. I'm actually kneeling on the floor now because I've run out of space. Now the circuit, it's going to be a fairly simple circuit. It's just basically a power supply and a big switch and a light and a buzzer. Okay, so let me draw you that quickly. So all we have is a switch, this is on switch, so when you plug the change on, and then LED on, okay, so you've got LED here, and then that will then go to a buzzer, and so another LED, okay, like this. And in here now, we're going to have a fuse. So basically, so you turn on with the switch, and obviously light turn on here, and we run your hoop around it, it comes like this, and it sounds, and this light will light up. Okay, simple as that, actually works, it's a bit of a challenge. So you turn it on with this switch, that allows the light to come on here. Then when you run your hoop around it, if you contact this, then this buzzer will sound, and this light will light up. Okay, simple as that. It's quite a simple circuit, but actually making it work is going to be a bit of a challenge. I forgot this bit. So what's that all going to look like in real life? Well, the switches I'm going to use are this one, which is off of a tractor. Okay, so you turn your switch on, and then what happens is when you go round like this, if you touch the metal pipe, it does this. That's the plan. Right, first thing I've got to do is mount this switch and this buzzer into each box. Right, so now the switches are in, the light's in, the buzzer's in, none of them are wired up yet. I need some more stuff to wire that in. What I want to do now is concentrate on the actual buzz bar. Now what I'm going to use is this stuff, which is stainless steel tube. It's about 6mm, but what I've got to do is try and bend it. So obviously I've had a quick bend here. It's not the easiest thing to bend. What I've got to do is bend it around here. So I think what I'll do is I'll drill a hole either side where it's going to come out and then go in, and then actually bend it as I go. Right, I'm probably going to have to do this on the floor because I don't have enough head height to bend the wire. Right, so that's the basic buzz bar on this first basil. It was harder than I expected. I thought I'd just be able to bend it around the shape, but it's really hard to bend. So I ended up having to make this, which is basically a template with screws in it, and I've ended up bending the pipe around these screws, and it still didn't work properly, but it was close enough. But what I've had to do is strengthen the bottom of the pipes just so it's secure enough. Otherwise it would have got a bit floppy. Let me show you what I've done. Okay, so on the bottom of each of these pipes, what I've done is this thing. Okay, so I've basically put a bracket screwed to the box with a 6mm hole cut in it, and then 2 clamping screws. So basically that acts as a big clamp, and it gives me somewhere to actually connect the electrics to. Oh, we'll get in now. Hello. Right, it's been quite a few evenings now I've been working on these things. Let's have a quick catch up and see how far we've got. Right, so the little ones, we've got 3 of the little ones now. Okay, 1, 2, 3. That's the original one where it goes around the outside. This one, it just loops in front of him, and this one is sort of offset. All the boxes have now had routing around the edge to smooth off the edges. I've decided to put some lights around the top of these figures, so that added an extra bit of complexity to it. I'll show you those when I put the lights on. The 4th box, which is this one, which is in progress. Spent ages on a CNC machine making things like gears, and also this engraved tractor here, which is quite big. I've got to figure out where I'm going to put that. Obviously the holes cut here, the edges are all routed over, smoothed over. Buzzer in here. This one's a bit flexy, but that one has got a surprise in it. I'll show you that in a second. And then this massive one on the floor here, oh, I've got to decide what I'm going to do with that. I mean, that's, yeah, it's whatever it is, 1 metre and something along. Obviously got a switch in here, different light. I'm probably going to put a horn in this one so it's a bit louder. But this, I think it's going to be a race. Okay, so you have 2 people playing at the same time. First one to get to the end. Right, this one here, oh look, it's still wobbling. This one here, let me show underneath. It's got a bit more of a surprise. Instead of just a little buzzer that goes, it's going to do this. Okay, so a bit of a rumble. Let me show you how I'm achieving that. Okay, so underneath here, all we have is basically a motor. Can you see that? Yeah, okay, so we've got a motor here, and it's got an offset on the end here. So when you buzz it, it does this, which should scare the hell out of people. Right, before I move on to the next stage, I just want to put these on. Now I've made these little badges okay, and I'm going to put one of those on each. But what I want to do is the letters at the bottom, which are very shallow, I want those to be in black. All the background I want in yellow, and in the top here where it says New Holland, I'm just going to have that as the MDF colour. So what I'm going to have to do is actually paint this black and then sand it back, then mask it up and then spray the whole thing yellow. Let's see if that works. Right, so each of these now I've painted over that in black. With a little stiff brush I've gone into the lettering. What I'll do now is I'll leave those to dry while I get on with something else and then come back later and finish these off. Right, so all the mechanical stuff is now done. I'm ready to put a coat of primer on everything. Now I've got all the boxes laid out so I can get to every corner. These are all elevated on top of very expensive toolboxes. Everything is numbered, like for this, for example. Okay, it's got number 1 on it. That goes with the number 1 on here. Okay, so everything's numbered somewhere where it's not going to get painted. That means that when I put it all back together again, they'll all fit. So all I've got to do now is these little fellas. I've got to put a little bit of masking tape over the black and then paint these with primer. But I'm going to turn the extractor on and leave that running for about an hour. Try and get the dust right down here. I've had a good old vacuum of all my shelves so no dust falls on everything. So I'm going to turn the extractor on, go and get myself a roller from Wix and then start painting. Right, stuff I'm going to be using is this, which is Leyland Trade MDF primer. Now this is water-based. I was going to spray, but I've decided to use a roller instead. So I'm going to turn the extractor back on, get painting. Right. Oh, excellent. That's fine. Okie dokie. Right, so everything's had a couple of coats of the primer. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly denib them. I'm using some 600 grit paper just to knock off any high spots. Now the colours I'm going to use are, because it's for a corporate day, let me show you the colours. Okay, so it's for a corporate day for New Holland. So what I've done is I'm going to use the blue and the yellow. I've got a can or cans of this blue stuff from Aldi's and also some acrylic yellow, which I think was also from Aldi's. And the idea is I'm going to do the yellow first and then mask it off and then do the blue. But first of all, let's denib everything. Right, so that's the first coat of yellow on all of these. My God, it's so yellow. I've never seen anything so yellow. Right, I'm going to leave this to dry overnight and then probably give it another go tomorrow evening, I reckon. And then I can start on the blue. Right, so the yellow's all done. I've taken the first bit of masking tape off and I've now masked everything up with newspaper and lots of masking tape. Now, normally when I do this, I end up with overspray everywhere, and it's always a bit of a mess. But I've gone to town this time. I'm going to try and do it without getting any overspray on anything. So let's give this some more paint. Right, I've just turned these upside down. I've just noticed something. This may be of some use to you. Where I've turned it upside down, obviously this hole is now exposed and I can see the yellow here. If I spray any spray there, you're going to end up with yellow showing, blue showing through the yellow. And the same with all of these little buzzer holes. So I'm going to quickly stick a bit of masking tape over those just to stop it going through. Right, so that's the first couple of coats of blue on all of these, and this box, and also on the little bezels down here. Okay, they've had a coat and a bit. Also I've sprayed these, which are some gears that I cut out on the CNC machine. I painted them black and I've just given them a quick dusting of silver to make them look like rusty wheels or rusty pulleys. And also down there on the floor, I've got the bases for the bezels. Right, I'm going to leave all this lot to dry. I'm going to turn the extractor back on because I've had the door open, but it's a bit late now. So let's turn that back on and then go in and have a cup of tea. Right, so it's the next day now. This has all had one coating of blue. I'm going to give it another coat now. Hopefully that'll be enough because I've only got one more can left. Right, so I did manage to spray my glasses yesterday. I got loads of paint all over the glasses, but I managed to get that off. Right, let's give this another coat. So extractor back on, door open, mask on, spray. Right, so these have all been drying now for 2 days. Hopefully they're all dry enough. My little bezels are all nice and dry. So what I've got to do now is get the masking tape off and then maybe start assembling them, then do the electrics. Right, so for each of these bezels, obviously I paint them all blue at the moment, but obviously these bits are supposed to be white. So what I'm going to do, rather than try and get in there with a paintbrush and do it on the lines, what I'm going to do is going to mask this up. So I'm going to mask the whole thing so it looks like this. Okay, and then once that's all masked up like this, I can basically push into all of the grooves, okay, and then follow it around with the scalpel, and then that will give me this. And then what I can do is I can paint that with a fairly large brush or a spray, and then fill out all those bits with white, and then all I've got to do then is touching his eyeballs with black. Right, so I've done the first white bits on the first one. It hasn't turned out very well. Yeah, it's a bit streaky. I've used this stuff, which is it's acrylic paint, but it's from the pound shop. Not very good. So I had to go out and buy some spray. Since I've already got them masked up, I might as well try and spray them without getting overspray everywhere. So let's give that a go. Right, hopefully you can hear me over the extractor fan. While that white paint is drying, in each of them I'm going to fit the switch, the little bulb and the buzzer. That should save me a bit of time later on because I'm running out of time. So I'm going to do that for each of these. Right, if you remember way back at the beginning of the video, I made these and I painted them yellow and I was going to sand off the front. Now obviously under here I wrote agriculture in black, so this is still masked. So what I want to do is peel this off and then sand the front off, and then hopefully it will come out all right. So I'm going to be very gentle with this. Let's see how we get on. So on each of these games, I'm going to be using a spanner as the loop, okay? But some of these might be a bit small, which means they're a bit more difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a piece of the pipe. I'm going to bend it to make a big loop. This should be the easiest one out of the lot. Well, it's loopy shape, isn't it? By the time I put a handle on that, that'll be perfect. Right, so this has been drying overnight now. I've put the white on. Hopefully I'm going to take the masking tape off and it's going to look fantastic. Right, so each of our bezels has now got its base on. And what we've got to do now is screw this to the base. Make sure we get it the right way around. It's got a number 1 on here, number 1 in the box. Let's hope we do it right. Right, the next step is we've got to do some wiring. Now I've decided to change my mind. Instead of just having this little LED that lights up when you do the buzz, what I want to do now is have it so when you turn it on it's all green, and then when you buzz it turns red. But what that does mean is I've got to add an additional relay and overcomplicate things. So we do this LED, we put a relay, okay, and then two relay, and then between a green LED and a red LED. That sort of idea. This may not be right, but I'll sort it out as I go along. Right, let's get soldering. Right, after ages of messing around with the first one, I've got it. It's a bit of a mess at the moment, but I've got to tidy that all up. I've got my little power supply here. This is just rigged up to show you exactly what I want it to do. Let's have a closer look and I can demonstrate. Right, so we've got the power supply here. Let's turn that on. As soon as I turn the switch on, which is obviously on the other side, we get the little yellow light comes on here, and then these ones are green. Okay, then here's my buzz bar. It's obviously not fitted properly, but that's our buzz bar, and it's going to be touched with the spanner and it goes. Okay, so the buzzer goes off and these lamps turn red. Okay, so that all works. Here's the relay, here's the buzzer. It's not very loud, but it will be loud enough. So what I've got to do now is make that tidy and then get these lights fitted to the top. The LED strips I'm going to stick around the outside here. So I'm going to have to use some Star Bond, CA glue, and some activator to actually stick it in place. But in theory, it should look like this. Right, that's all the internal electrics done on the 3 small ones. I've got to do the slightly bigger and the massive one now, but they're slightly different. I'll just get on with those. Let's have a quick look in this one. Right, same again, as you can see, we've got a switch here, got a little LED here, main connector block here for the relay. The relay acts as a ground for the lighting. Here's the light in here. It's got a 12 volt supply and 1 circuit for the green and 1 circuit for the red. Here's the buzzer, and here is the connection to the actual buzz bar. Right, so this is the slightly large one now. The electrics for this are different. I've got no lights on this one, so I haven't got to worry about the LEDs. But what I do have is this, which is a little motor with an eccentric on it. So when the motor goes, it vibrates. Now this is controlled by a separate relay because I don't want lots of current going through this. So this is just going, it's just a little signal. This relay trips and it supplies the power from here to the motor. So it's quite safe, just a bit noisy. Right, so that's pretty much all of the bases done. What I've got to do now is concentrate on the loops that I'm going to use. Now I'm going to use spanners, and I've also got a loop that I made, which is obviously going to be for children to use on the simplest one. So I'm going to cut these off, and for that I'm going to use my angle grinder. So essential safety glasses, and I'll probably have to do it outside because it's a bit sawdusty in here and I don't want to blow anything up. Right, well that was relatively simple, just using the angle grinder to cut off the ends of the spanners. So that's given me 5 loops and obviously my other loop. Well, you'd think it was easy. I cut the wrong ends off. What a wally. So I wasted 3 spanners by cutting off the wrong end. Right, so that's cost me a fortune. Right, let's turn these into handles. Right, so obviously for each of these spanners I need to make an electrical connection so I can attach the wire to the end. So what I'm going to do is drill a hole in each, then I'm going to put an eyelet electrical connector with a little bolt like this, and then put a nut on the other side. Okay, tighten that all up and then I can connect this to the wire. Okay, and then obviously I'm going to wrap the whole spanner in something that you can hold. Right, because some of these spanners are quite chunky, I've decided to drill the hole and then tap it with this, which is my work zone tap and die set, but it seems to work a treat. On the big loop here, I've got another one of these trim clips that I'm gonna put on there. That should serve okay. Once the handle's covered, that'll be good. So for each of these spanners, for a handle, what I'm going to do is this sort of braided effect. Just basically cover some of the spanner in black tape, which is this sort of felty stuff, and then using this sort of paracord, I'm wrapping it around and then sticking it with some CA glue. Right, I quickly wanted to show you this, some improvements I've made to the larger one. Now this has just got a horn in it, there's no vibration or a little beeper, it's just a horn. But when you was touching the wire, it was just crackling, it wasn't actually horning as a horn would. So what I've had to do is add this, let me show you. So what I've added here is a little timer relay. There's a little potentiometer here, which you can adjust to adjust the time. Now what I've done is I've used the horn signal from here to feed to this relay, and then I'm using the output to create a latch to the other relay, which is hiding around here. Okay, so what happens is when you buzz the horn, instead of it just going crackle, what it does now, it sounds for about 2 or 3 seconds and it latches itself in and then it stops. So let me give you a quick demonstration. I'll muffle the sound because obviously it's getting late and I don't want to annoy the neighbours. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it goes for about 3 seconds and it stops. That's excellent. While I'm here, I've been busy with the laser tonight. I've made some laser signs to go on there so everyone knows who made them. And it's a Frank's Little Workshop, and it's also got a QR code. So there'll be one of those for each buzzer, just to advertise my channel. Right, so that's pretty much it. We're all done. If you remember, this was our original concept drawing, and what we've ended up with is this. Okay, we got 3 of these little fellas. We've got a medium one and we've got a large one. Let's have a look at them working. Right, so here they all are. We've got this one here, which is this one, and this one. They're all fairly simple. This one's the easiest one because it's got the big loop. The other 2 are similar. This one, the buzz bar goes around the outside of him, and this one, it goes in front of him. Over here, we've got the massive one, which is about 1.2 meters long. That's actually a race because there's 2 loops. They're both exactly the same, so it's a fair race. And then tucked over the back there's our medium one, which is the shaker. All right, let's have a look at this one first. This is just one of the simple ones. Okay, so this is one of the small ones, relatively easy. It's not the easiest one. We've got our spanner here, which is our loop. Okay, we've got a braided handle on it now, so there's no way you can touch any metal. Not that it matters because it's all low voltage. You come up to the game, turn it on, this all goes green to say, yeah, we're good to go. And then you literally go around. I'm going to see how far I can get before I buzz it. Oh, not very. So when you buzz it, it goes red, green, red, green. Okay. Right, so here's the big one. It's got my 4 little sprockets on it that I made, and the horn is in the middle. Now this one is 2 people, so 2 people can either play it as a competition or they can play it as a team, and they can see if they can both get to the end. Same again, same spanners. This one is just a horn. Turn it on, little light comes on. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, and then you work your way around, and if you touch it, it goes. Okay, so it buzzes for a couple of seconds and then stops. Right, so this is the last one. This is probably my favourite because it's the shaker. It's quite wobbly, so you've got to make sure this is still before you start. Same again, spanner. We've got a 16mm spanner this time. Start it up. Now this one's got a surprise. It's got a little buzzer, but it also shakes. So if you start doing it and you touch it, it goes. So that should scare a few people. So I cut this out on the CNC machine. Yeah, I like that. It's quite nice. Would have been nice to have painted it, but I really didn't have time. And all of them have obviously got the New Holland badge, because obviously it's for a corporate day at New Holland. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the build. Sorry if the video was a bit long. If you want to make these on a smaller scale, you just basically scale everything down, and it's easy enough to do. You can make them as complicated or as simple as you like. I like the idea of the LEDs turning from green to red. That's nice. The shaker is my favourite, and this one should be good to cause a few arguments. Right, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Oh, God. Should I do that again? All right, so that's the basic point. Right, so only each battery power 15%.